Nigel Farage said he wants to cut your taxes. Now he's changed his mind.
Is this proof finally that he's just like all the rest of them?
It's about
It's
the
a hope,
timing.
not a promise.
It's an aspiration based on the achievements.
Right.
It's what I call performance-related, okay?
Yeah.
You get performance-related tax cuts after you've saved a load
Why didn't you
of
just
money.
make the manifesto aspirations rather than manifesto commitments? It's a big difference in the two words, isn't it? I commit to something, I
And the very
aspire
first,
to do something.
we're committed to cutting spending. We're
Right.
committed to cutting daft
Okay.
regulation. You'll hear a lot more about this week. And then, when we achieve those things, we're committed to cutting taxes. The commitment is still there. The question is, the aspiration is about the timing.
Tim, shall I ceremoniously rip off my reform wristband?
Okay.
We get one weekly, don't we?
This is like you're throwing off a wedding
I
ring.
know, but it's weird, this whole reform...
In fact, why don't we just keep the damn thing on? Because
What,
once a
just
week,
gather them up.
we have to go to a reform press conference. I mean, they would wilt in the bath, but just give us one that will last.
What I find interesting is you and I have discussed, have they peaked too early? Are they peaking too early? Oh my goodness, they're peaking. They're peaking and the only way is down. And then Farage comes out with this suggestion once again that there's going to be an early general election. Let's just listen to that clip.
My own view is that in 2 budgets' time, the markets will actually force the Chancellor into what will be a genuine austerity budget, at which point the left in the Labour Party won't buy it, and it's why I still stand by my prediction that there will be a general election caused by economic collapse that will happen in 2027.
Really specific about
Yes.
the date and also doom-laden.
Yes. So if there is going to be a general election in 2027, it kind of explains why Reform are doing things from a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
Just pitch rolling now. They're thinking to themselves, we don't have much time.
Yes.
We could be having to summon an entire cabinet in 24 months.
Which they could not do right now, let's be honest.
But then wasn't today all about, you pointed this out as we left that nice building. Where were we? In Cornhill.
We were at the bank building or something it was called.
It
the
looked
old
bankish.
bank. Right.
With people with bowler hats and briefcases and black umbrellas
Yes.
surrounding it. We felt very out of sorts because obviously we're the only
Everyone
people
was really well dressed.
we're the only people in the square mile that can't do good maths. And everyone was well dressed. It was all very glitzy, wasn't it? They've got
Yes.
their act together, Reform. There's music. It's like, oh, Pete
Yes.
Tong is about
They were
to play.
They were playing Mahler
Yes.
as we waited.
And I said to you, wouldn't you simply die without Mahler, which is a quote from Maureen Littman from Educating Rita, one of my favourite films. So Farage does this whole thing, and I felt the whole thing, the thrust of it, we agreed afterwards, was now.
This was the big economic speech.
Indeed. I know I'm a political maverick, but I don't want to spook the markets like Liz Truss. So everything I promised in that manifesto of ours from last year, which, by the way, we didn't call a manifesto, we're different from other parties, so we called it a contract with the people, actually no longer stands because we're in such dire financial straits that all of those tax cuts that we promised to get your vote in the summer of 2024 doesn't apply now because Reeves and Starmer have created an even bigger black hole than the Tories did. Therefore, what were a load of manifesto commitments have now become, what's the word, Tim? Aspirations.
Their aspirations. The party is aspirational. Just to remind people the scale of their ambition. At the last election, the Reform Party pledged tax cuts that would have cost something like £90 billion.
Wow.
Most dramatically, lifting the income tax starting rate from £12,500 to £20,000.
Which I liked. I thought that was a good idea. Expensive, but sexy.
I don't like it. We'll get
Like
into
a
why I
good
don't
pair
like
of
it. but
heels.
They also set out plans to raise the higher 40p rate threshold from around £50,000 to £70,000. I like
Again,
that one.
yeah, we
I like
like
that
that.
one. I like.
We all like that.
And scrapping inheritance tax on estates worth less than £2 million.
Okay.
In the course of this speech, he gave us his general spiel on why the economy is so bad, why we need to limit immigration, why we need to have more power, etc., etc. And there was a kind of a tax cuts are now an aspiration sort of moment.
Yes.
Because the key thing is now fiscal responsibility. That they're going to inherit such a mess. Where have I heard this all before? We've inherited such a mess. It's just terrible from the Tories. You've heard all this before. We've inherited such a mess that these things you say are now just aspirations. But he couldn't quite let go of them.
We want to cut taxes, of course we do. But we understand substantial tax cuts, given the dire state of debt and our finances, are not realistic at this current moment in time.
A question at the end asked more directly, so are you abandoning the £20,000 thing? And no, we want to get there.
Yes.
We want to get there, but we'll have to get the finances straight first.
So I have this strange game of sort of like telegraphy and tennis with Richard Tice, the deputy leader, which we'll listen to in just a moment, which sums up the dilemma that reform now finds itself in. He is stuck between a rock and a hard place, isn't he? On one hand saying, I'm different to everyone else and this is why, and look at my enormous, ambitious and controversial policy platform. You know, you can't come up with something radical. If you're constantly going to say, Britain's broken, everybody, it's broken, here it's broken, there, we can just imagine him saying it with a fag in one hand and a pint in the other. You have to suggest something really dynamic to change the system. And you and I have also discussed, reform is a bit like the people who want to rip up the system, and the Conservatives are the ones who want to, ironically, reform the system but not rip it up completely, because by definition they are Conservatives. But Farage knows that the markets will move against him if he goes full Liz Truss.
Yes.
If he has the right ideas but the wrong execution.
And they'll do that before he even enters government.
Precisely.
What he doesn't want is a 6-week election campaign in which every poll showing reform is ahead leads to the markets panicking.
Yeah.
And Labour is able to say, well, you might hate us, but we can run the economy.
Yes.
So he's got to take that card away from them now by establishing reform as fiscally
So it's
Puritan.
good politics when it comes to trying to become the biggest party in government. I'm not quite sure how it plays with the red wallers of this world,
Yes.
who were Labour, then went for Boris in 2019 and are now switching to Farage.
Yes.
Because I would imagine, I mean, I quite like the appeal. He said, we are appealing to alarm clock Britain. And I thought that's great, isn't it? Because it's cross-generational, it's cross-demographical.
Yeah, but I have an alarm clock. I just set it very late.
Well, you're such a snooze button presser.
I've
I know
never
this about
understood
you.
this a lot. We're back to New Labour and its hard-working families.
No, but it's talking
What if
about
I
people
don't
who
work very hard? What if I don't have a family?
Yeah, but
Who's
you
in it
d-
for me?
But you do work, Tim. That's the difference. He's appealing
I don't
to
like it, though.
Hang on.
I don't like working.
Well, look, as I discovered last week on my cruise, the thing about work is it does get in the way of good fun.
It does.
But we have fun together on here. We could be doing.
do.
We're not going
This
down
doesn't
mines.
feel like work.
Let's just stop it. Right. So let's not opine the state of our profession or indeed our state of employment. What he's saying is he's making an appeal to the workers, not the shirkers.
Yes.
Be they be on minimum wage or indeed earning oodles of cash. Now, I think the one problem for his working man shtick is that he's there going, we need to make life a lot easier for the rich.
Yes.
And then he lent into the minimum wage is too high. And by the way, no, we probably can't help people on their first 20 grand.
For young people, he indicated he was open to lowering the minimum wage for young people. Do we listen to your singles session with Richard Tice?
Sounds slightly filthy, and I will.
We had Isabel Oakeshott on here last week.
I know. Also, can I just caveat this interview by saying I don't know, is Richard Tice a masochist? He seems to enjoy our exchanges.
Yeah.
Is there something slightly flirty about it all? I don't know. Just have a listen.
Okay.
And then we will dissect it afterwards.
Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform, thank you very much for joining me back on the Daily Tea. I'm listening to that, and this is my impression, correct me if I'm wrong, that you and the manifesto pledges you made on tax at the last general election have just been thrown under a bus.
Far from it. We've got aspiration to make tax cuts, but as Nigel said, and I've been saying for many months now, we've got to cut spending first, cut daft regulation. You'll hear loads from me on Wednesday about that in my major Bloomberg speech. Then you can afford what we call performance-related tax cuts. We're the party of fiscal responsibility. We've always said that. I would just remind people, the very first page of our manifesto last July 24 talked about the savings. You do the savings first, but you have aspiration for tax cuts. Nigel said, we'll have some modest ones to start with. You have the aspiration, but because the state of the finances are in such a state now, and they will sadly be worse by the time of the next general election, we've got to deal with that first.
Hang on a minute, right? You sold that manifesto on the basis that it was a contract with the people that couldn't be broken. You said, we're not like the other parties. We're not going to come out with manifesto pledges that we can't honour. You have literally broken that contract with the people. You made one vow, which I remember vividly. I actually quite liked it. I think I wrote favourably about it at the time, that you were going to lift the threshold 12,500 to 20,000 for people on the lowest incomes. That was meant to take 7 million people out of a tax bracket.
And Nigel talked about it today.
No, he's moved away from it. He says you can't guarantee it. So that contract that you signed with the public at the last general election isn't worth the paper it's written on, is it?
Nigel literally repeated today that's our key aspiration.
No, it's an aspiration now. He said he couldn't guarantee anything.
Because of the state of the finances, because we've got to prove the savings first, then, and alongside that we do the regulation cuts, then we can show that we can afford taxes. And also we said, as Nigel said today, we can do it in steps. So we have that.
You've taken that contract, you've just torn it up, basically. You've said we can't guarantee anything we said last year.
What we've said is that we will be the party of responsibility. We'll make the savings first. It was the first page of the contract last year. So we're reinforcing that point. Then when we show the markets we've done that, because no one trusts people to make savings because everyone else has been so incompetent, then actually we can deliver on the growth and the tax
you did
cuts
put savings. You did put savings and tax cuts. What else did you pledge in that contract? You talked about stamp duty, you talked about inheritance tax, you pledged a load of stuff that you're now backing away from.
No, what we're saying is...
Am I right or wrong? You're
wrong.
Backing away.
Once again, you're wrong. We're saying those are the right...
Once again?
Because you're often wrong.
No, I'm not wrong on
you
this.
were wrong on QE when you attacked me last year. But anyway, the point is...
I'm not wrong. You put stuff in a contract that has now been taken out.
We put stuff in the contract. We said we'd make the savings. We've been right on QE and QT. We're right on the cost of net stupid zero. And we said we'll make the savings. We're starting to deliver savings in the councils as a way of showing we can deliver savings. When we make those savings, then we can afford the tax cuts. You have the direction of travel. And I think people understand that. They understand about fiscal responsibility.
All right, let me just... You're suggesting I'm wrong. I am right when I make the following claim. You promised a load of tax cuts in your contract with the electorate that you've now had to abandon. Yes or no?
We haven't abandoned the principle of cutting tax.
The specifics. Richard, come on, let's not dance around this. I get why you're doing it. Many people listening and watching will agree with you. They'll say, but can we just agree I'm not wrong? I'm not wrong when I say you put specific ideas in that contract and now you've had to abandon them.
And the aspiration of those ideas are absolutely right. Okay. The timing of them would depend on the state of the finances, because this government is wrecking our economy and it will get worse. So we'll have to sort that out first, get the economy growing, start introducing hard work and risk as an aspiration. Then we can afford the tax cuts. The sort of tax cuts we talked about, Nigel's reinforced today, about scrapping inheritance tax, about lifting the threshold on before you pay any income tax. Okay. The timing of it depends on how fast we can cut wasteful spending. A lot of detail from Nigel on that. And then I think people will say, yeah, that's the right way to approach it.
So Pat, in the laws of right and wrong, let's put it this way.
I think it's 2-1 to Tice.
No, it's not 2-1 to Tice. Am I right in thinking then that what were tax cut commitments have now become tax cut aspirations?
Yes.
Right, so something's changed. To quote Theresa May, who said nothing has changed, something significant has changed because pledges you made in the contract have now become wish lists. A pledge card of commitments has become a wish list depending on the state of the economy. So something's changed, yes or no on that? Something's changed fundamentally.
The key thing is the timing of the commitments to cut spending massively, much bigger than we've got to cut more spending than we said at the time, because this government has increased the spending. So we've got to do that first. When we've done that, we've satisfied people we can do it, we've satisfied the bond markets, then the aspiration of the tax cuts, many of which were in there, that's when you can deliver. But it's a question
just putting my legal hat on here, as you say, it's 2-1. Just the legal in me says,
I think it's 3-1.
I did study contract law. Basically, you can't honour the terms of the contract you made with the people last summer, can you?
I think we can honour the contract. The question is the timing.
You can't honour the specifics.
The question is the timing of it. The aspiration of achieving it is absolutely there, but it's about the timing.
Are you personally affronted that you came up with most of these pledges in the manifesto that have now been torn to shreds?
We've just agreed they haven't been torn to shreds. They're aspirations, and the commitment to cut spending is absolutely there. That I talked about at the time. You said to me at the time, I couldn't cut those. I couldn't make those saving cuts.
Let's use an analogy.
But actually,
a commitment.
I've been proven right on all
this
stuff.
This is what's happened, right?
It's now 4-1.
If the manifesto was a contract like a marriage contract, it would have been a proposal.
You talk to someone who sadly got divorced.
I will marry you. Now you're basically saying, yeah, maybe we'll carry on dating, but it could happen in the future. We could have a ceremony, we could not. That's what's happened to this contract. A proposal has become an aspiration, and I think from the electorate's point of view, that might seem like you are backing down on what you once promised.
I've never been propositioned before live on air, Camilla. I mean, the reality is that exactly what we put in that contract about cutting spending, an aspiration for tax cuts, it's about
it's
the
a hope,
timing.
Not a promise.
It's an aspiration based on the achievements.
Right.
It's what I call performance-related, okay?
Yeah.
You get performance-related tax cuts after you've saved a load
Why didn't you
of
just
money.
make the manifesto aspirations rather than manifesto commitments? It's a big difference in the two words, isn't it? I commit to something, I aspire to do something.
And we're committed to cutting spending.
Right.
We're committed to cutting daft regulation. You'll hear a lot more about this week. And then, when we achieve those things, we're committed to cutting taxes. The commitment is still there. The question is, the aspiration is about the timing.
We shall be back for more tennis between Tice and Tomini at some point in the future.
Is it real tennis or is it paddle tennis?
I don't know where.
I
don't know what. It could be pickleball at this stage. Richard Tice, thank you.
Bloomberg on Wednesday.
Bloomberg on Wednesday. We shall keep an eye out for your big speech. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that was game, set, match, Camilla Tomini, obviously.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, I thing is, I do just like trying to just serve hard at the man. And he's one of those players who just, even if you hit him with a ball, it kind of go, oh, never mind.
Yes. But the serious question is personnel issues within reform, right? So Nigel actually said, and this is the thing about him, he's always upfront and transparent, and he said, we don't have a cabinet yet. No. We don't have a team. He said, our team is growing, and he directed our attention to the MPs sitting in the front row. Well, he had 4 of his 5 MPs, but he was missing one.
Yes, where?
Sarah Pochin.
Where was she? Probably watching telly and doing a little tally of who is appearing on any given advert.
The colour of the faces. So she wasn't there. But also there's this question of who is up and who is down between Richard Tice and Zia.
Do we think that is the singles match, really? Within reform, that is your Sinner versus Alcaraz,
yes.
to use a tennis example.
Well, Richard is the very, very patient man who kept reform going
yes.
when Farage wouldn't commit himself
yes.
to it, including with some of his own money. He is a very patient and generous man. Farage then comes back and brings in Zia.
Yes,
and
his
then
little protege.
Zia gradually, who I think Nigel regards as his successor in some form. So now they are thinking about forming a government. They'll be having serious debates and contests over which jobs they should have.
Yes.
And the big one, of course, is Chancellor. And it does feel a bit like, if you're going to tear up Richard Tice's manifesto, that feels like that might be an internal victory for Zia. But can I say something in defence of reform? Because I worry we've been a bit negative. I want to pick on what Nigel said. Journalists have a habit, of course, of telling a story, because we've got to. That's the way we think about life. And we also tend to over-philosophize. So we're always sort of philosophise. So we look at reform and we say where as journalists can we place it on a political spectrum?
Yes.
And is it sticking to that position or moving around? And what Farage said at this press conference is, look, I've never changed. You know I'm an old unreconstructed Thatcherite. You know I want a small state and I want low taxes. It's just that on a couple of issues, I have altered a bit. So if you take welfare spending, he's in favour of abolishing the two-child cap on having kids for child benefit, right? But he says that's directed at people who are in work. So,
and crucially British.
And British.
He doesn't think that indigenous Brits, if we can call it that, are having enough children, and he's right, because we're having a population crisis.
Yes.
He's worried about immigrants having too many children.
He says it's a cost of living issue because of the cost of
But it's actually quite a
childcare.
controversial policy that he's managed to kind of hide in the spectre of
nativism.
Reducing welfare.
It's natal nativism.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, yes, I did say I want to nationalise steel, but I want to do that because, and this is where he did acknowledge he had changed, he has discovered the importance of strategic industries. But I remain a capitalist, he says. And I kind of take him on that, and I think sometimes the desire of journalists to impose a narrative on this of he was one thing and now he's changing. I don't think that's fair, actually.
Well, he also looked very comfortable in the environs because, as he said
Yeah.
himself, he used to be a city boy.
Yes.
He was somebody who looked at Margaret Thatcher, probably watched Wall Street, Gordon Gekko stretching out those red braces and
Yes.
thought, greed is good, I'm going to cash in. And actually, I think did pretty well, right?
Yes.
Then segued into politics, in the
Yeah.
era of greed not being so good and things going a little bit pear-shaped for Thatcher. And
Yeah.
the advent of Tony Blair creates a European project that he decides to
Yes.
vehemently oppose. So
And I think it's journalists who see tensions between policies. I don't think many voters do. I think most voters understand I'm going to nationalise this one industry to save it, but otherwise I'm going to cut taxes to encourage the wealthy to stay. I think most people get that. Where I disagree with him on is taking people out of tax up to £20,000. I think as far as possible, everyone should contribute something.
yes,
And I actually think it's almost like an extension of the benefits culture to say that because you earn up to a certain amount, you shouldn't have to pay tax, and you take you out of it. Well, in that case, you end up becoming a recipient. You don't contribute anything up to
Yes.
£20,000.
but that's just a naked appeal to the kids, isn't it?
It's shameless.
It's 16
It is.
to 18
But I
voting.
think it's
Come with me.
bad for society to create because it further embeds the situation in which the middle classes are paying for the welfare state of everyone else. No, I think even if it's a tiny amount, I do think people up to 20,000 should contribute something.
Yeah, the other thing as well, Tim, that I think it was designed to do was to say we're not socialists, honest. I mean, I don't think the criticism that Nigel Farage is a socialist works,
Yeah.
not in light of the re-emergence
Any
of...
more than he hates Britain,
Well,
which
quite,
is what Keir
exactly.
Starmer always
In light
tries
of the
to say.
re-emergence of Jeremy Corbyn and Zara
Yeah.
Sultana and Polanski and these other, Gary Stevenson-esque type wealth taxes, of course he's not a socialist.
No.
I mean, they're using the example of the two-child benefit cap and, of course, his rhetoric around reindustrialisation. But again, we've discussed this before. This is him channeling his inner Trump and J.D. Vance.
Yeah.
He's looking at what was popular in America. I had this discussion with him, I told you, at the Thatcher dinner, where he wants to focus on faith, flag and family.
Yeah.
That's how he's spinning the welfare stuff. Faith is quite hard for him to be convincing on, but let's see. Maybe he's going to increasingly find God as we approach the ballot box for the next time. And then flag, well,
Yeah, that's easy. He's got that one sewn down.
he's draped in
That's-
it. He wears it on his socks.
That's not a problem for him. It's probably tattooed somewhere. That's true. I come back to this narrative issue. We in journalism are used to saying Boris Johnson captured the working class vote for the Conservatives in 2019, as if no Conservative leader had ever done it before.
Yeah.
As if there is no such thing as working class conservatism. As if you're working class, you always vote socialist, just that was an exception because of Brexit. Well, excuse me, that's nonsense. Margaret Thatcher won working class votes, right? Disraelism is built upon appealing to the working class. The working classes don't mind capitalism as long as they sense it's working for them. That's reform's real pitch. It's nationalism. It's neither left nor right. It's about saying, we'll tear up the government, we'll redesign it to work for you in your interests. And sometimes that'll look a little bit left-wing, sometimes right-wing, but the key thing is it'll no longer feel like an elite telling you how you should live and making you pay for it.
Kemi Badenoch is giving her own oration on the economy tomorrow, which we may or may not cover, depending on its newsworthiness, Tim.
Or when my alarm goes off.
Oh, indeed.
It's quite early. She puts everything a little bit too early. I don't know what point she's trying to prove, but it doesn't wash with me.
Whatever happens, Tim will be awake for this podcast going out tomorrow at 5 p.m.
If you're enjoying our journalism, why not sign up to From the Editor, our free email newsletter? Start your day with the latest news and opinion, plus our bite-sized puzzles. Scan the QR code to sign up free today.